Today, we are diving right into the middle of a crisis that is escalating by the hour. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important shipping lanes in the entire world. Because as of this morning, the United States has officially started a full naval blockade of Iran. And believe me, this whole situation is on an absolute knife's edge.
And just so we're all clear, that is not a hypothetical. That is the actual direct message being broadcast by U.S. Central Command right now to any ship anywhere near Iran. It is a completely unambiguous warning, and it sets the stage for a massive, massive confrontation. So yeah, it's official. As of today, April 15th, 2026, the U.S. has gone way past just issuing warnings. They've imposed a formal naval blockade on every single one of Iran's ports and all its coastal areas. This is a huge escalation. I mean, it's a move that most people would call an act of war. So let's really unpack what this use of force is actually going to look like out on the water.
Okay, so how exactly is the U.S. going to enforce this red line? It's one thing to declare a blockade, but it's a whole other thing to actually enforce it across hundreds of miles of coastline. Let's break down the military firepower involved here and what their exact orders are in this ridiculously high-stakes operation. And the scale of this is, well, it's significant. We're talking about 5,000 U.S. sailors and Marines. Most of them are from the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, and they are all tasked with this one mission. This is not some small patrol, folks. This is a major military deployment with a crystal-clear objective. And their orders? They are explicit, and they escalate. Any ship that gets near an Iranian port will first be told to turn around. Simple. If it refuses, it's warned to prepare to be boarded. If it still doesn't comply, U.S. forces have the green light to interdict and seize the vessel. And that final step, just like we heard in that opening radio call, is the use of force. There is zero ambiguity here.
All right, let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this. How is Iran responding to a full naval blockade? Well, as you can probably guess, their response has been fast, it's been defiant, and it is every bit as uncompromising.
You just have to admire the sheer confidence in that statement from Iran's foreign ministry. I mean, that's not a negotiation. It's not a plea. It is a flat-out rejection of the very idea that a blockade could even work. And it's a direct challenge to the entire U.S. Navy. And this right here, this really lays out the core of the conflict, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the U.S. launching a formal military action. On the other, Iran is calling it an illegal act of war, a violation of a ceasefire, and they are vowing to respond. These two positions, they're just completely incompatible. They're on a collision course. But Iran's argument actually goes a little deeper. They're rejecting any foreign intervention, basically saying they've been the historic guardians of the Strait's security. They're blaming all the recent instability on what they call the U.S. Zionist-imposed war. That's them referring to the U.S. and Israel. And they argue that the region could take care of its own security if only the American forces would just leave.
Okay, let's pull the camera back for a second. We have to, because this is so much more than a regional fight. A standoff between two powerful navies in this tiny strip of water, it creates massive ripple effects for the entire global economy. This isn't just about the US and Iran. This thing affects all of us. And just look at how fast we got here. The war itself only kicked off on February 28th, right after those US and Israeli strikes. In a little over 40 days, we've gone from the start of a war to a full-blown naval blockade that is threatening global trade. The speed of this escalation is, frankly, alarming. This chart shows you exactly why this is such a big deal. On any given day, about a fifth, that's 20%, of all the world's crude oil and liquefied natural gas goes through this one single choke point. It is, and this is no exaggeration, a vital artery for the entire planet's energy supply. And the impact? Well, it's already here. This isn't a what-if scenario. It's happening right now. The latest maritime tracking data is confirming that commercial shipping traffic through the strait has pretty much ground to a halt. That artery we just talked about, it's effectively clogged. So here's the crucial thing to remember. This is not some past event we're analyzing. This is a live, incredibly tense situation that's developing by the hour, and it's all balanced on a razor's edge. So let's just quickly recap where things stand at this very moment. So you have U.S. forces in position, ready to enforce this blockade. You have Iranian forces watching every move, promising to hit back. You've got a fragile ceasefire that is basically broken, and that major artery for global energy, it's shut down. All the pieces are in place for a major clash.
Which brings us to this final critical question. You've got two powers in a direct standoff, neither one willing to back down, and the entire global economy is hanging in the balance. What happens next? The whole world is watching the Strait of Hormuz, just waiting for an answer.